decimals first. So, okay, so today we're doing signed numbers with decimals. We'll also do it with whole numbers, because that, well, integers anyway. So, adding and subtracting. Decimals. Specifically. So first we'll do decimals that are integers, just whole number ones. So let's say I had negative 121 plus negative 32. So there's no decimals in this, just some integers. First thing, whenever I have this plus minus situation here with some parentheses, I want to remember that negatives are mean and beat up positives. So when I see a plus minus, I'm going to simply rewrite this as negative 121 minus 32. You see what I did there? I don't want to have a bunch of pluses and minuses everywhere. That gets to be really confusing. Now, if I'm doing this by hand, which initially you do need to do these by hand, and you can use your calculators to check your work, I want to see that we take the number that's furthest from 0. So between these two, which is the furthest one from 0? The negative 121 is the furthest from 0. And then below it, I'll line up my places, and I'll put my negative 32. And whenever these signs are the same sign, I'm going to add. And if I have different sign, I'm going to find the difference. Different sign, difference. So in this case, I have same sign, right? Same sign, sum. Here, we'll do sum right there. I'll add those numbers. I get 3, 5, and 1. And then whichever sign is up here is the sign I keep. So it's negative 153. But let's understand why this worked out. And to understand why, we go to the number line. So let's say I do a different one. Let's say I have negative 3 plus negative 2. And we need to remember a negative on a number line means go left. And a positive will mean go right when I'm on the number line. So I'm going to rewrite this just like I did up here. The negative is going to beat up this positive, and I get negative 3 minus 2. So on my number line, I'm going to start at what number do you think? 0. So I'll make my number line. I'm going to start at 0. So here I am, I'm at 0. Or not 0. I'm going to start at negative 3. And then I'm going to go which way according to this minus? To the left. And how many? So I go 1, 2 to the left. And there's my answer, negative 5. That's why it works. Now I don't want to spend a lot of time on number lines unless I have to. Which actually, I do want to, real quick, you don't have to write this down unless you really want to. Let's say I put a negative 6 right here. What number is right of negative 6? And what number is left of negative 6? Okay? Let's say I'm at 50. What's to the right of 50? And what's to the left? Okay, so just make sure we're writing our number lines correctly. Sometimes these get flipped around for inexplicably. All right, let's try one where we have some extra negatives. So let's say I have 35 minus negative 49. Whenever I have a negative, remember negatives are mean and they beat each other up. So when I have double negative, make them positive. So, and you can even see this kind of looks like a plus sign right here. So that will become 35 plus 49, which is something you learned how to do back in 3rd, 2nd grade. So we should definitely get that right. But if I'm following the same process that I did over here, which of these two numbers is furthest from 0? 49. So I put that number on top. The one that's furthest from 0 is always going to go on top. That's a plus. And there's no sign here, so what does it assume to be? Plus. So we assume a plus. So plus 35. Same sign what? Sum. Same sign sum. So we get 84. And we keep the sign of the 1 on top, because that one's the furthest from 0. That's the one that overpowers. But maybe we had this. Maybe I have negative 122, and I'll subtract negative 243. What should I do? Yep, so I have negative 122 plus 243. Which of these numbers would I put on top? The 243. Why? Because it's the furthest from 0. So I have 243 on top. What do I put below it? Negative 122. I subtract this, so 3 minus 2. Why do I subtract it? The signs are different sign, different. So I subtract it. There's my answer. Is that going to be plus or minus? Well, plus, because the one on top is the one furthest from 0. That's the one that wins the battle. All right, now let's say that I have decimals. Actually, this is going to be pretty easy. Maybe we can, I don't know, life can be good. All right, so here's what we need to do for decimals. Line up, place, value for adding and subtracting. We need to line up the place value. All right, so if I had negative 5.32 and I subtract a negative 10.5, okay, what should I do? Walk me through it. What should we do?
First, make the 2 minuses and plus.
Yes. So we're going to get a plus right here.
10 on top.
Yep. The 10 goes on top, the 10.5, and why?
Because it's furthest from 0.
Furthest from 0. Even if it were negative, that would be the one on top because it's the furthest from 0. It might be the smaller number, but it's the one that's furthest from 0. And then what do I do next? I'll put below it the 5.32, but notice, line up my decimal points, right? You have to be very neat. Wait a minute, there's nothing right here.
You gotta
Add
add a 0.
a 0. Now, am I going to add these numbers or subtract these numbers?
Subtract.
Why do I subtract them? Different sign, difference. My answer will be positive. Notice if you always put the number that's furthest from 0 on top, your answer is always going to have that one sign. So my answer is plus. So I borrow. And now I'm ready to subtract. Just borrow when you happen to need to. Bring down my decimal point. Bring it down. Now it's kind of silly to borrow here because, well, I'll do it just because some students do that. I still have a 10. What's 10 minus 5? 5. Okay, so basic math fact right there. So when you get to the end, borrowing can sometimes be a silly endeavor. All right, let's do one more. Okay, what will I do first?
Just get rid of the add sign, 15.8. Negative 9.
Okay, yep. Which of these numbers will go on top when I write it?
The 8,
The 15. The 15 is furthest from 0. Do we see that? Now, which of these is a smaller number?
80. It's closest to 0.
Smallest number is the 15.
Ah, but, okay. So the negative 15.8, let's look at the number line. We'll estimate it on a number line. Here's 0. Let's say this is negative 5, this is negative 10, and this is negative 15. The 15.8, this one, is like right here. It's like really close to there, right? And this negative 8 is like right here. Okay, it's like between those. Now, which is furthest from 0? Well, this one, which is why it goes on top. The negative 15.8 is furthest from 0. But it's not the larger number. This is actually the smaller number. Does that make sense? Because you owe, you have less money if you owe someone negative $15. If you owe someone 15. Or think of temperature. If it's negative 15 out, that is much colder than negative 8 out. Right? So, this is, even though it's the number furthest from 0, it's actually the smaller number. Now, how do I line up this 8? Where should this 8 go?
Under 15.
Well, where?
5.
Under the 5. Okay? And then I might want to add a decimal point there and a 0, just so things line up nice. And then we do same sign sum, so 8.23. And that's my answer. Now, I feel like you guys are doing good enough. We can just go ahead and knock out the fractions today, and then just not have a homework worksheet at all. Doesn't that sound great? That sounds awesome. So let's do that. So let's knock out the fractions. We might take a little bit more notes today, but then tomorrow we'll just do all the examples. All right, so fractions, we're going to do the same thing. But the thing with fractions is we're going to need a common denominator. Now, we're going to deal with fractions a little bit differently than you did in grade school, or maybe even last year. Like, let's say I have negative 1.5 plus 2 2/3. Now, what you probably did in grade school is you would line them up like this, like maybe this. And then you'd get your common denominator. Ugh, that's terrible. Okay. It's not terrible. It's actually okay, but when you get into algebra, actually with all these signed numbers and things we're going to be doing, it actually will get really confusing. So what we're going to want to use is not only do we want a common denominator, we like improper fractions. So we are going to use improper fractions. We will get numbers that are rather large, but that's okay. So we are going to change these. So I multiply and then add. Now this is going to be a negative number, so 2 times 1 is 2, plus the 1 is 3. So I have negative, I just keep that negative, negative 3/2, plus, I'm going to multiply, and then I'm going to add right here. So 6 plus 2 is 8, so I get 8/3. And does anyone not know how to get a common denominator?
I don't, but I have a question for you. Why isn't it whenever you multiply 2 times -1 and you get -2, why don't you
Do a positive 1? Because I'm kind of thinking, I see what you're saying. You're saying -2 plus 1 should be a -1. Okay, so what I'm doing is actually I'm saying that negative's out here, but then I'm dealing with this 1.5 without that
you
negative.
just throw the negative away for a little and then,
It comes back.
okay.
Okay? Yes. Because I want to change its form. I want to just make it improper. All right, so to get a common denominator, we need to think of multiples of 2 and 3, and we want the first one that they share. So the multiples of 2 are going to be 2, 4, 6, 8, and there's just an infinite number of those. And the multiples of 3 are 3, 6, 9, and there's an infinite ones. I want the first one that they have in common, and that's my common denominator, 6. Okay? Now notice how I did this. I just wrote, instead of writing 2 different fractions, I wrote one fraction with a common denominator of 6. Now I need to think, I multiplied this 2 by a 3 to get that 6, right? So I need to multiply this by a 3 also. So negative 3 times 3,
-9.
negative 9, plus, what do I multiply this 3 by? 2 to get my 6, so what do I multiply the 8 by? And I get 16. And now I can go ahead and simplify that. What's negative 9 plus 16? Well, we do what we just did, plus 16 minus 9, and that should be a 7? 7? So we get 7, 6, and we can just leave it like that. Okay, now your book will switch it back to mixed, but we'll just leave it improper. Okay, that's fine. But if you want to insist on it, it would be that. Okay? So let's do another. Okay, that was different sign difference, right? Let's do another. So what if I had negative 5 and 2/5 plus negative 2 and 1/4. So what should I do?
You can just get rid of the plus sign.
Yep. So first I'll deal with that. And now what?
Make it improper.
Make it improper. So 5 times 5, 25, plus the 2, 27. So we get negative 27 over 5, minus 9 over 4. What's my common denominator? Yes, it is 20. Notice how I did that. I didn't bother writing, that's so much work, just one fraction. And at the end of the year, when we do these with like a bunch of letters, this will make a lot more sense. If you understand this, it will make a lot more sense. So what do I need to multiply that 27 by? 4. So what do I get?
Negative 108.
Say it louder.
108.
108.
Yes.
And then minus I multiplied this one by 5, 45. So same or different sign? So same sign sum, I should get negative. And then I need to reduce my fraction if possible. Wait, Mr. Kane, what if I had 1/2 plus 1/3 minus 4/5? Well, now I have 3 of them. I'd rather jump off the Golden Gate Bridge than do that. Okay, so you could get a common denominator for all 3 of these at the same time. Okay? Or I could do them in pieces. I could do this one and then do the 4/5 later. It's just a matter of what you're comfortable with. For your notes, I'll do it both ways. So if I wanted a common denominator for all 3 of these, I hear someone saying 15, but that's ignoring the 2. It's 30. Now, back here, listen, back here I listed my multiples. Here's a fast way to get your common denominator. You listening? Fast way to get common denominator. Look at all your denominators and you find the biggest one. Biggest one, 5. Now I'm going to count by 5s. 5. Does 3 divide 5? No. So 5 doesn't work. Next multiple, 10. Does 3 divide 10? No. Next one. 15 is the next one. Does 3 divide 15?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Does 2? No. So that wrecks it. Next multiple. Do you see what I'm doing? I take the biggest multiple and I check all the little ones. All right, so the 30 will be the first one. So I need to multiply 2 by 15 to get 30, so 1 times 15. Plus, I multiply the 3 by 10, so the 1 by 10. And I multiply the 15 by, or the 5 by 3, so the 4 by 3. And that'll be minus 12. So I do 15 plus 10, that's 25. And then 25 minus 12 is 13. Boom. All right, so that's doing it all at once. I can't do it in pieces. So I do the 1/2 plus 1/3. I'll do that first. And the common denominator there is 6. That would be times 3. That would be times 2. And then I get 5/6. And then I have to remember, this is going to be a trick, I'd have to remember that minus 4/5. Now my common denominator is 30. I can see that just by multiplying those in that case. Times 5 times 6. Uh-oh. Did I make a did I do a no-no?
Yeah.
2, 5, 6 times 5 times 6. My bonobo.
Yes.
Okay, we have a mistake here. Find the mistake.
I think more than
That's right. Right? Subtract. Times 6 times 6, right? 24.
Oh, wait, no.
Times 5 times 5. What? Impossible.
You bonobo.
Alright. Find it. It's in here somewhere. Oh, I found it. I found it. This one's the wrong one. This one on the left's wrong. Here's why. Gosh, how did I mess this up? Okay, so 5 times 3 is not 30. 5 times 6 is 30. So I should have done 4 times 6 right there. This should have been 24. Stop your smirking right there. So this 12 should have been a 24. And 25 minus 24 is 1. So 1 out of 30. Oh boy. How did none of you catch that? Gosh.
I'm talking with
Me some dum-dum.
You're right.
Okay. Boy. But I suckered all of you into my mistake. Don't let me do that. Don't let me get that far with a dumb mistake like that. If you see it, say, Mr. Kane, you're a bonobo. Alright. Alright, we have actually talked about everything we need to talk about for this section, so we'll stop right there.